Welcome to Memphis Machine,
a Muddy Pig production. I'm Jonathan Bass.
And I'm Carl Casperson, and together we're looking to show off the creative sights and sounds of Memphis, Tennessee.
Amen.
In this episode, we got to speak with
Gabriel DeRanzo
and Greg Cravens, who are the guys behind
Stoned Ninja.
How about that?
A brand new comic from Memphis.
We're not making this up. It's for real.
You can't make it up.
You can't. But huge thanks to Logan Walker for
hey Logan,
putting this on, bringing this to our attention. It was a great conversation. Gabe and Greg are doing something unique and very Memphis centric, and of course they have a whole kind of ethos and philosophy, which we talk about in this episode.
We do. We get into it. They've created a really cool protagonist. They're about to release the second volume episode issue of Stoned Ninja. And
I just love how this was birthed out of a creative, almost like the comparison would be to a songwriter's evening get together. These guys literally,
like a jam session.
Yeah. There you go. A comic book jam session, if there is such a thing. So we hope you enjoy the story of how Gabriel and Greg got together and created this comic book. We even talk a little bit about some of the nitty-gritty publishing side of it, which is interesting. And come to find out, most of the English written comics are powered out of Memphis.
Wow. Yeah, that's right.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, I remember that. Holy smokes.
Enjoy it. Well, hey, welcome Stone Ninja guys. Do you like? Is that a way to introduce us? Stone Ninja guys or Stone Ninja? Straight up Stone Ninja.
Yeah. Stone Ninja team.
Stone Ninja team.
Yeah.
To the Memphis Machine podcast. Really excited to have you guys on. My first thought, I texted Jonathan today, and I've probably mentioned this before, but being musicians, everything feels like, oh, that's just like the music business. That's just like and so you right out of the gate, you guys have accomplished what a lot of musicians would like to accomplish, getting a creative idea together.
The endeavors of publishing.
Going beyond just talking about it. And then actually having product, and then attaching, like we said earlier, attaching swag, other branding to it in order to grow it, supplement it.
Yeah, it's one of those things
cultivate
where,
it.
If you're in a band and you think, if the right stuff would just happen, if everything would just come together, and for some reason this came together without anybody forcing it, which
that's a lovely
seems
thing.
to be the way that things have to happen.
Well, you're definitely cultivating the momentum and keeping it going. But you want to start from the beginning and kind of tell us how.
Let's start in the middle and
start in the middle.
Do flashbacks,
which is what we're doing
that's
with
a
the story.
Storytelling thing.
That's kind of
it's
what
like
we're
Star
doing with
Wars,
the story.
man.
Yeah.
You got to tell the sequels later.
The original idea, fresh out of University of Memphis, graduated with a bachelor's in communication, and said, I want to do movies and film and all sorts of fun stuff. And I had the idea while I'm sitting there playing the Ninja Gaiden video game, and I had just seen Drunken Master a week or so before, and I said to myself, if there can be a Drunken Master, why can't there be a Stoned Ninja? And being a bartender, I've got plenty of free time between drinks, and I would take that time to write on a notepad. There's always a notepad around when you're in, working behind the bar too. And so I would sit there and write, little bits of the story and then put it all together. And I had a pretty solid origin story arc, right? Prepared.
Nice.
And then flash forward 14 years later, and Shannon Merritt of 901 Comics comes to me and he says, hey man, I want to start making comics. And I was like, that's cool, bud. I will buy your comic books. And he's like, no. I want you to help me make the comic books. I was like, but dude, I don't know how to draw. And he's like, no, you've got the character.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I know what you're talking about. The Stone Ninja.
Right.
He's like, yeah, you're going to write it. I said, that's a problem, bud, because I don't know how to write either. And I literally spent all of last year and part of this year teaching myself how to write an actual comic book. And I like to think it's progressing and it's getting a little bit better and better. But one of the elements of it that I was like, this is not going to work in comic book form because you don't want to read the first 2 or 3 issues of Stone Ninja, and he doesn't even, get stoned. Right? Well, you don't want all that backstory in your first issue or 2. You want to see the Stone Ninja full on action.
Yeah.
So I picked a good middle point of the story, in between kind of this origin piece and that origin piece, and said this is where he's going to become the Ninja-Lante new strain of hero.
Wait.
We need to mark that.
Ninja-Lante.
Ninja-Lante.
Yes, he's a Ninja-Lante with a purpose. Okay, he's a new strain of hero. He defends Reef City, which is a fictional city I made up on the on the East Coast.
Yes.
Somewhere probably South Jersey or something like that. Within driving distance of a couple of key locations. And the perfect destination for a superhero team-up stomp down, if you're listening, Marvel, DC, anybody else. But yeah, so part of it was just creating this whole world around him and all the extra characters and really fleshing it out. So it's more than just this one,
In Midtown, I noticed.
It's not clown shoes. There's depth to it. There's a lot of tricks in here. And one of the fun things that I think people realize after they put it down, they go, wait, it's not Cheech and Chong go to Japan. It's not like Jay and Silent Bob, get a hit put on them. It's a ninja action story that has subtle stoner undertones. There's, he's going to hang out on the couch with his buddies and smoke weed and eat pizza and play video games. But at the same time, when he's in ninja mode, he's not like some stumbling idiot. He gains this level of focus that he can kind of use all these elemental magics and stuff that are kind of built into his, DNA as a descendant of ninjas for many centuries and stuff like that.
So it sounds like you've thought about this.
Yeah. There's a lot. I mean, I try and make it too, touch on the realism in society too, and that's one of the things that is just it's really kind of hard to do it until you get that exact right idea,
right?
And then it's that works right there. That's perfect. And so little things the first little 5-pager that I had written, and Greg said, you know what, you have a script, I'll try yours. And we got together and talk about it. Stone Ninja was saving a burglary attempt of a robbery attempt, because they're armed. And this is one of the things Greg has taught me. I didn't know the difference between a burglary and a robbery. Yeah. Apparently a robbery is armed.
And be glad you didn't know, because it was the cops that explained it to me.
Well, yeah.
You don't want that happening.
No. He was saving a jewelry store from being robbed, okay? Mm-hmm. And so he's so what's the whole thing here? You don't even touch on him being the Stone Ninja until he says, I'm the Stone Ninja, And I'm
that part was okay. It was the teaser up until the character. The problem was that you had written a 5-page fight scene that didn't say anything else, because you were early in your writing career.
And so we took that, and I said, you know what? He's right. I didn't say, oh, no, my script is perfect, and I don't know who you're talking to.
He was ready to listen.
I was ready to listen to me
learn. You need more stuff.
And kind of add some depth to it. And so that immediately, first thought, what if that's a dispensary? What if that's a medical dispensary? Yeah. And then they're holding them up, and they're taking their weed, and they're taking their money, and then I can add that social aspect of, oh, well, even today in states where it's fully recreational legally, federal banks won't touch your money. And so they have to have safes full of cash and stuff in the back.
Gee whiz.
And it's easy, prey for, these evildoers in Reef City.
Wow. Okay.
And
So let's back up a step here. So,
Okay.
so you guys met. By the way, Chris Davis did a great article on you guys.
We'll tag that.
Memphis Flyer. Yeah, Chris
is a fine writer. He'd been at it for a long time.
He's just a fine human being. We are fans of Chris. You guys met at it was like a creative mixer, so to speak.
Yeah,
Was
Bad
that-
Dog.
901 Comics had decided to become 901 Comics publisher.
Yeah.
And I went in with a poster saying, "Come to a cartooning class." I said, "Hey, could you guys put this poster up? I'm doing a cartooning class." And they went, "Yeah. Can you come to a creators meeting on Monday and talk to some of these guys? You do comics, right?" And I went, "I haven't done comics in years." I just, you put the poster up? Yeah, we're going to put the poster up. All right, I'll be there. Yeah, so there's all these creative people talking, good game. Everybody's like, yeah. And like some of them are like, well, I was thinking that maybe I would write this thing that was sort of like, it's like, she hadn't written anything? And I look around and Gabe's the one guy sitting there with pages. I go, "You got a script there?" And he went, "Yeah." I go, "Is it done?" He goes, "Yeah." I was like, "I'm with you." I didn't want to deal with these people that are sitting around going, I was thinking like maybe I would write this thing that was kind of had an idea. Like, no, dude,
There's gonna be fairies.
Yeah.
And again, just like musicians, right?
Yeah,
I'm a
sure.
songwriter. Are you? You got
Yeah.
any songs?
Got any songs?
Well,
I got a lot of pieces of thoughts of. I got a whole book of ideas that I wrote down. Yeah, that. I got one of those, by the way.
Oh, that's great.
There's no complete song in that damn thing.
And actually, Shannon had given me the heads up. He's like, "Hey, this cartoonist is coming by here to the meeting tonight. So, you might want to go ahead and bring whatever you got." Up to that point, I had made it to like 3 or 4 meetings beforehand. And Shannon called it my shoebox of ideas because I literally have a DC shoebox with like all of those notes from 14 years ago bartending that I've accumulated it till today. And
He's
it's
apparently
literally
used the
a
exact
shoebox.
same receipt pads for 14 years because all the pages matched.
wow.
Not entirely.
You know those little
like
bitty
the
green pages that you get your
Yeah,
bar tab
sure.
written out
Yeah,
on?
yeah.
guest checkbook.
Yeah, guess what his scripts are written on? I'm
Mostly
kidding,
that.
mostly. Guess what his notes are all written on? The scripts were actually on paper, but
That's fine. Okay.
Well, so I mean, I'm kind of gathering that it's your first attempt to publish, like the first of to go. Is that right? I mean, that's pretty remarkable.
Like
if it is. I mean,
I haven't done anything. I've been bartending
that's
for
pretty,
20 years.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, your first-
And I did win Best Bartender in Memphis in 2010.
There you go.
And that's, the height of my achievement. And now it's time to transcend bartending and use my creativity, I think.
On a side note, are you glad? Now, this thing's popping into my head, but being creatives here, there's a lot of time suckage. Scrolling on your phone, you're just like, are you kind of glad you weren't on your phone all the time? That you were actually kind of writing down ideas. Do you see what I'm getting at?
Yep,
I do.
I did spend many years, trapped in iPhone video games.
Yeah.
And no lie, beginning of summer last year, we had already kind of started working on this first 5-page piece for the anthology for the first appearance. And I said, oh, now I've got to actually start writing like full comic book.
Right.
I want to plan to have a full comic book, 22 pages written by the time this first appearance comes out so that we're ready to start working on it. And I deleted every game from my phone.
Yeah.
And I gained so much free time from that.
Wow.
It was insane.
That's
where'd all that time come from?
Yeah, I mean, and I notice like if I'm doing just household chores, and to where it's like if you're doing something that's task oriented, your mind, if you're a creative person, your mind is reaching out to, and there's something to how we're built to where that is a natural thing to where you'll be in a task oriented, but the creative side is grasping for ideas and wanting to create, and I find that to be very cool that this was created while you were tasking as a bartender.
Well, and plus, it also looks very normal for you to be writing a note. Maybe it's a liquor list,
Yeah, right.
or something while you're behind the bar, instead of playing on your phone. Then you're like, oh, he's that guy.
Oh,
like,
you
am I
guys.
going to get a beer from this guy? Am I going to sit at his bar for 20 minutes and wait before he even notices me because he's so trapped in his phone? And I've always been, a part of my job is like giving quality service. That's
Yeah.
like the main part of my job. Show up on time, be nice to customers. They're the ones paying my bills.
Hey, yeah.
And so I've always kind of been an anti-phone at work kind of guy.
That's a
I'm
good
not
ethic.
saying
It's a good work ethic.
flip at my phone every once in a while and just give it a look to see
Sure.
what's new. But yeah,
Now on another side note, Greg has looks like is caricature. Is that the right term?
Caricature, yeah.
Caricature?
Not that it's going to help in a podcast, but I figure as long as I was here.
This is outstanding. Is this what I look like? Is this what I really look like?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
That's pretty
outstanding.
good.
This is very cool. Thank you
He's
so much.
captured
No
me.
problem.
This is
We'll take a step back too, just to Gabe's point. I was
Yeah.
in the gym this morning.
Yeah.
I was the oldest person in the entire building.
Yes.
I was the only person not seated at the equipment playing on his phone.
Trying to work out playing with your
Right.
phone.
I was using an elliptical. Everybody else was sitting down on one of the machines or another on a phone. 5 other guys.
That's a thing now, huh? Working out while you're
Yep. Well, no, they weren't working out.
No.
They weren't working out. No.
In between reps, is that the deal? Is
No.
that, no.
No, this is the first time I've actually seen these guys. I haven't been going that long.
Wow.
A couple weeks. But usually I go in there, I'm like one of the, 2 people, 3 people in the building. And I'm on the elliptical, trying to, burn off a cheeseburger's worth of calories. And these 5 or 6 guys wander in, and I'm like, oh, okay, they're going to work out. Maybe I can make more noise and stuff. I can work with the ropes or something if they're going to be noisy, because I don't want to boom in the room by yourself.
Yeah.
Every one of them sits down dead quiet. And I look around in a couple minutes, and every one of them is just sitting either on like those pads that you're supposed to leap up onto.
Oh, yeah,
both
right,
feet,
yeah,
or
yeah.
One of them's on one of the sit up benches, and they're all playing on their phones. I have no idea why they were there, to be honest.
probably playing PUBG. Let's be.
Oh gosh.
So
There were Pokemon in the room. They had to collect them all.
They caught a Liftosaurus.
Yeah.
A Leptosaurus. Very nice.
Greg, you're an illustrator. Have been for
Yeah. Last time I pulled a paycheck off of anybody was in 1991. So I've been freelancing cartoons and illustrations in Memphis for, you do the math.
Yeah, right.
It's disappointing and
and
horrifying.
comic strip creator.
Yeah. I do a web comic called hubriscomics.com. I left you some stickers over there. Put
Oh,
them on
yeah.
there. In fact, he's got one of your stickers, so take it away from him. So if you want a few thousand,
You did draw me with a devious eyebrow here.
What?
Yeah.
You were looking at your screen, and the eyebrow went up, and it was kind of satanic there, dude.
And apparently,
Anyway, so
sticker
yeah,
thief.
webcomic called hubriscomics.com. If you want a couple $1,000 or a couple thousand cartoons about kayaks and bicycles and rock climbing and crap like that, go look at that. Family strip called The Buckets. It runs in the newspapers and at gocomics.com/The Buckets.
All right. So
And advertising crap all over Memphis. You've seen my work.
awesome.
Whether you've wanted to or not, you're welcome.
That's great. So you guys make the initial meeting, you hit it off.
Yeah.
And how? I mean, so obviously there was some type of when did you realize? I think this can be a thing.
When it seemed to be the most popular thing that was in the anthology.
Yeah.
And people were like, when do we get to see this? When is this going into its own comic book? It's like, why aren't you asking about the others? There's a Civil War story in there. There was all Twilight Zone-y and everything. And there's all, this cool looking
The
stuff.
space
and everybody,
drama.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
like.
But
at
everybody's
the very
going to
last
Gabe.
page. They're fighting a super giant space octopus, and you're
Yeah.
like, "That's cool."
Yeah. But everybody's going to Gabe and going, where's the comic?
Yeah.
Wow.
And he's like, hey, Greg, where's the comic? And I'm like, do we have time for this?
Well,
I haven't done comic books since the late 80s, early 90s. And that was back when Caliber Comics existed in Malibu and crap like that.
Oh wow.
I know one of the Malibu editors is trying to restart his imprint that was under Malibu years ago. And he's working with Dean Zachary here in town. But yeah, I don't think Malibu as an entity exists, and I know Caliber doesn't. I think you can
Yeah.
still go online and order old Caliber comics.
Well, so I mean, being in Memphis, being a Memphis podcast, what am I trying to ask here?
Focus.
We can edit this, right?
We can edit.
We can edit.
No, there's no
time.
editing. There's no editing.
Take a sip of coffee.
Yeah, right. So, does Memphis offer anything in particular, to comic book writers, authors, in general?
Other than just being fun, supportive, creative community, there's not a whole lot going on yet. But one of the cool things about it is our publisher, Bad Dog Comics, which is Shannon Merritt. He wants to keep putting stuff out. So he's doing everything he can. They've done 2 anthologies total. There's a follow-up to our initial first appearance in the first anthology. The first one officially from Bad Dog Comics was our Stone Ninja #1. #2 is about halfway through as far as the colorization process goes, and we're waiting to get a couple of ads finalized and stuff. But we're getting close to having that ready to
call
order.
out to people that have promised ads and haven't actually gotten the artwork
Oh,
in.
yeah, right,
you
yeah.
can't. Dude, get your ad in.
Hey, so now in the digital world, in the digital age, being that I'm holding, this is episode 1, right?
Yep.
How bold or how big is this? Like doing vinyl for musicians, actually having a physical comic? Is that?
In a sense, yes.
I don't think that's changed over the years.
But there's a certain physical aspect to comic books that's always going to be there.
It's very pleasurable
Right.
to have, like, right?
Yes,
I
and then
think
plus
that's a
the
comic book creator's
collectability
thing, and it hasn't changed.
Okay.
The collectability of
Sure.
certain comics, you're going to want. You have the digital file all day, and as you're like, "Whoa, look, I've got the digital file for Stone Ninja
Right.
#1." It's
Yeah.
like it's not worth anything,
Yeah.
This is going to be ideally worth something down the line, and something that people can.
for what
hold
it's
on
worth,
to.
I've seen.
Also, you can't put a digital file on a countertop in a smoke shop, and people go,
Sure.
How much is that digital file? $4.20. Oh, I'll buy that. That's cool. Now they see the comic book and they say, hey, that looks really cool.
Right.
Yeah.
How much is it? $4.20. Ha ha ha. I get it. I will also buy that comic book. And then the counter person says, oh, well, and they also do their own rolling papers, and we have their T-shirt line over here, and then
which
we've
is
got
very much like the music
sweatshirts
industry.
coming in.
Yeah.
next
buy a
week,
CD.
Right. But what's not like the music industry, though, I mean, I've seen, just traveling around and just here in Memphis, I mean, with 901 Comics, I mean, they're relatively new, right? I mean, relatively.
They've been around for 2.5 years now.
Right.
So,
I mean,
new.
I mean, brick and mortar, you don't see pop up in the music world anymore. I mean, just a CD shop,
my,
you know what
my
I mean?
dad actually owned a store where he sold guitars and amplifiers and.
Well, CDs mostly.
Well, yeah, but even with the actual physical instruments, musicians would come in and hang around there all day long.
Right.
And he had a wall where if you had your little 8.5 by 8 by 10 color glossy photo,
right,
with all the circles and arrows, people were invited to put it up on the wall.
Mm-hmm.
So local venues would come by and go, hey, okay, there's all these different bands. Okay, call these people. But he got retirement age and sold out to his employees about the time the internet made it possible to order your Les Paul online.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the store started struggling.
Yeah.
Because the world changed around it. Where it used to be that was the hub. If you were a musician in Jackson, Tennessee, you went into Cecil's Bandstand. You didn't miss it. That everybody went in there. And now, it sort of drifted away after years and years. And kind of the same way that the spinner racks and the quickie marts and grocery stores did. You used to be able to buy comic books anywhere.
Yeah, right.
Anywhere.
Right.
And now you've got to do a hard target search for a comic book shop if you want a comic book. Well, not anymore. Now, if you go into a smoke shop, you're going to go, hey, look, comic book.
Yeah,
I used to buy comic books when I was a kid.
I'm really interested in how there's a convergence of the what do you want to call it? The herb culture, right?
Yeah.
The herb culture and
cannabis
also
culture.
Cannabis culture. Thank you. And also the classic, for lack of a better term, stereotype of the comic book hero and how all these things are converging. So back to the story. You guys hook up. Well, you guys meet and create this character. There's interest. You're pleasantly surprised. You go back to creating more, and So present day, you're almost done with the second episode.
That's artwork.
Artwork wise,
he's written way more than just the second.
That's great.
Yeah, I've written
issue.
the entire first story arc.
Yeah.
I pushed myself this summer, and I said, okay, by the time number 2 is going to be out, I'm going to have the entire story arc ready, so that if we need to ramp up our scale, like my contribution is ready, and the next phase for me really is going through and starting to do like layouts, like just little. I draw these little stick figure ninjas, and put all the pages to storyboard.
Fantastic.
With little notes.
Thumbnails, but you're exactly right. You're doing little bitty drawings and working out the page.
And that's the kind of phase that I'm working on. As I've also like. Issue number 3, for instance, I want to say I'm on like the 4th draft now. Like I go through and when in my process of just writing these books, right? Like I don't want to be stopped. If I can't think of the perfect thing for my hero ninja to say, like I put like an X right there and go, he's going to say something.
Right on.
And then I move on. And I keep going with my pages and I keep going with my story, so that next time I go back and I read it, I look at that and I go, you know what am I going to say here? And like, stop evildoer. Nah, that doesn't sound, like no one would actually say that, And Greg points some of this stuff out to me. Sometimes he's like, you know what? Like that line right there, it just needs a little tweak. I'm like, okay. And he's like, there's nobody would say that. So you guys
are self-editing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're able to bounce off. Now, so the convergence of these. So he's a cannabis activist as well. I mean, or there's cannabis activism, so to speak.
In this fictional city, they have they're in a medicinally legal area. Okay, so it's kind of like the gray area for the whole cannabis culture right now, where there are dispensaries and people have to have like medical cards. So there's doctors that see people, and we're kind of building. And this is like a kind of like a true situation that you will find in the states where it's medicinal. But not fully recreational.
It's hurting the criminals' profits, though.
And it's hurting the criminals' profits. And obviously, there's
the devil's lettuce.
Well, there's we throw a devil's lettuce in there. The preacher, the right wing preacher, is like
the devil's lettuce.
He calls them out, and he's got a lot of followers. But he's also kind of intertwined with some of the bad guys, and there's this whole like group of like really evil folks on our horizon that are attached to corrupt politicians, the evangelical dude, the illegal sales of drugs and narcotics, and like basically all these criminal elements, as well as like a pharmaceutical company. And, what are we combating right now? I mean, the opioid crisis.
Oh, see, that's bananas.
And so we've got this whole group of evildoers that are being pumped full of opioids.
So you've got some low-hanging fruit of rich story.
And there's a lot of
the convergence was a fortuitous one. Yeah, people used to talk about, this is a fine snapshot of society. Whenever you had a book come out or something, they would talk about it being a snapshot.
Okay.
Same kind of a thing here. It just worked out.
See, I have a family member who grew up in a very fundamentalist background, and they have chronic back pain, and they've been able to manage their pain. We were talking about CBD oil.
Yeah.
They discovered, and they get a strain that's not, they don't get high, and it's strictly, and they're able to avoid the whole opioid rabbit trail that's when people are getting into, and so here's so that's interesting. I mean, so apart from like maybe the recreational use or the party use, I think culture is starting to take notice of like, I don't have to pop OxyContin to manage my pain. Yeah, you don't. Well, and maybe not for everyone, but for a lot of people, this is a huge benefit.
Yeah, I actually stopped by Modern Hemp in Collierville. And picked up their anxiety relief kit. I mean, we're talking like $30 worth of like candy and suckers and tinctures and all this like it's like a goodie bag full of CBD.
Yeah, right.
And I mean, I had a sucker on the way here, and I'm feeling nice and mellow.
Yeah, right.
Totally legit, totally legal. They carry our products out there as well, and so does Whatever, which they have the largest selection of CBD herbs, and the ways to go about using those.
Yeah.
Whether it's through tinctures, salves, balms. I mean, there's so much. You can literally go to dozens of places in Memphis, Tennessee, and find a cure for what ails you. And we want the Stone Ninja to kind of come in and alleviate some of those stereotypes that you get with stoners and stuff like that. That whole like lazy stoner thing.
That's what I grew up with. Yeah.
Right?
Cheech and Chong,
Cheech
and Chong culture.
and they're all like, yeah, man.
I did too.
And,
Hey, real quick, Memphis Machine would like to thank Snakebite for their sponsorship of the podcast. Snakebite, made in America, makes the best keychain, beer, bottle opener, and folding fork church key, along with their excellent professional bartending tool, the Mamba. You can check out Snakebite at www.snakebiteco. That's snakebiteco.com.
So when he said Stone Ninja at the first meeting and handed me pages, I was expecting stoner humor.
Cheech and Chong.
Yeah, or
I love Cheech and Chong.
because I was
Yeah,
always
they
a
were
comic book guy.
hilarious.
I'm like,
The
it's
classics,
like the Furry Freak Brothers. It's
Yep.
old, because that was the last kind of comic books you could ever get in a smoke shop.
Wow.
And I like kind of try and throw like an homage to like all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
There's going to be like little bits of pop culture references that you're just going to pick that up and be like, oh man, that's great. Like that is so cool, man. Like is that guy the dude from Die Hard? Maybe. You don't know. This is this Hans's like great grandson? Like we don't know. It might be, like we just make it to where there's possibilities that it could connect to so many different things, and we'll drop like I said, there's a line in here where he calls our bad guy, our mafioso boss that has a bakery. He calls him the cannoli kingpin.
Nice.
And he says he's part Tony Soprano, part cake boss. So I kind of like to throw in that little nod to other things that have been going on around in society, things that influence me, and all that's
And it's
kind
a
of
good
like
thing
a
he
very
can do that
minor
because
one.
I don't have any background in any of this.
Yeah.
I don't watch enough TV, and I'm not part of cannabis culture. I just draw pitches.
very
So,
very
yeah,
pretty
I've got-
pictures.
I've got people looking at me going, "Really? You drew this? You can tell you didn't write it."
Now, from an artistic perspective, is this like doing a long form, like an LP? Back to the music.
Probably.
Like it's more intensive. Like you're like.
Well, I can knock out a week's worth of comic strips in a day and a half.
Okay.
Once you know what you're going to write, and you pick through it and throw out some crap and you keep on doing the good stuff. Yeah, it's that's a limerick. That's a jingle.
So how much time is this
yeah,
taking up
the
with
comic book
with
takes a
everything?
hell of a long time.
So this is this starting to command more attention with your guys' lives and stuff as well?
As far as right now, it's like
We're still in slow mode.
Yeah, I've got parenting, and then I've got work, and then I've got Stone Ninja.
Yeah.
And like any given day while the kid's at school, I am running around all over Memphis and West Memphis attempting to get our stuff, our products in these different retail locations.
So aside from your merch and everything like that, tell us from any perspective you want. I mean, if somebody wants to get into it, I mean, what should they expect from the publishing world? In
just
comics?
getting into the comic book business. Well, it's definitely a challenge. For the first 2 issues now, I have had to run around, get local businesses to support by placing advertisements.
Yeah.
Memphis Made, wonderful people, are on our back cover, first issue and second issue.
And we didn't have to build their ad. They had it for themselves. That was a good thing.
Heck yeah.
Whatever is
Plug and
definitely
play, right?
one of the big
Yeah.
sponsors. We have Normal Memphis. That's the National Organization for the Reformation of Marijuana Laws. The national chapter, I contacted them. I haven't been able to get in touch with them directly, but a local chapter found me and said, "Hey, man, I love your comic. I started following you on Instagram and saw what you were doing. Pretty cool stuff." And since then, we've met up a couple different times and got to talk over what I'm doing with the comic book, and we'll be a part of their first ever Hemp Fest, 4/20, 2019 in Overton Park. They're going to do a major hemp fest. There's going to be booths for all sorts of CBD companies and stuff like that, and vendors, and we're going to be there with our comic book and our merchandise, and that'll be our first official booth as we try and join up into other festivals throughout not only the Mid-South but the entire United States.
So let me ask you this: so in like being a musician,
Question, by the way, I got way away from the question.
Your question.
That's fine.
No. But what I'm wondering about, and I'm sure maybe our listeners who are looking to get into comic book or just publishing, self-publishing, and like a musician, if you get some music together, you get interest, it starts to grow some legs and go places. How have you locked it down to protect, either copyright, or did you get a lawyer, or is this like
yes,
lawyer fees, man,
yeah,
lawyer fees.
Yeah,
Lawyer
so you're at that place. Like,
I have
how's that worked
international or an intellectual property lawyer,
Right.
on retainer.
Yeah.
The first issue has been sent out for copyright. We have a trademark pending on the name Stone Ninja. We have
Right.
a trademark pending on a new strain of hero. We have the first appearance is fully copyrighted, and we have the Stone Ninja Comics LLC. It's officially a business.
Right.
We have, our employee identification number. We've got, the business bank account.
Where was the tipping point where you guys thought, like, yeah, we got to lock this down? It's time.
When the first appearance came out November 15th of last year.
Wow.
I took, I think maybe a week or two before that, and I took the digital files and sent them off for copyright.
Yeah.
Now, after the first issue came out in May of this year, I finally got word back from the copyright folks, and they wanted things clarified. And at about that time, I was like, okay, we need to go ahead and work on the trademark. I researched, some stuff on the internet and did my own kind of like, can I do this by myself and save some money?
Right.
And realized that really it would be ridiculous for me to like
try that.
Yeah, do that. The sending in the copyright was easy enough, but then they're like asking me questions like this and this, and you need a form that says this, and I'm like, okay.
Right.
So I just reached out to a friend of mine who's doing that kind of stuff, and he was more than happy to help me out. I'm sure because he's getting paid.
Yeah.
But he also thinks it's a great story.
Yeah.
But they've got a signed copy at their office, and they're like, oh, this is so cool,
But,
man.
but at this point now, you guys feel pretty good to where it's like, look, this is protect. I mean, to where say like if Jackie Chan were to be like, hey, I love this, we're gonna shoot this. This is like it's ready.
Yeah.
It's ready to. It's ready
Jackie
to enter.
Chan, if you're listening.
It's ready to enter the world of commerce.
There's enough material to do a good pitch.
Yeah.
For a complete story arc.
And that's one of the things I'm thinking about.
That's kind of what I was getting at. So
and
the whole
back to your
pitch
question.
thing. Yeah.
Gabe is actually doing more than most of the people that I have ever run across who say, I'm going to write a comic book.
Yeah.
I've watched many people since the late 80s or middle 80s when I moved to Memphis. I watched a lot of people dabble in comic books. It's easy to dabble.
That is true.
Because what happens is, as a child, you see comic books, you want to draw comic books, and you get all excited about making comic books, and then suddenly you just say, I'm gonna print my own, I'm gonna publish my own, I'm gonna be a publisher, and you forget. If you started off thinking I'm gonna draw comic books, well, give that up because you're gonna be a publisher now, and you don't think that.
Mm-hmm.
you say, no, I'm gonna write them and I'm gonna draw them and I'm gonna publish them myself. It's a gigantic business. There's an industry built around that.
Right.
So a lot of people dabble and then have to back off, and it becomes a giant pain in the butt. And you get out 6 or 7 issues, and you do what you can with it. Now with Comic Cons popping up, of course, Memphis has got one that's 37 years old now. But there are brand new popular ones springing up. You can do that now better than you could 30 years ago. Mm-hmm. But I've never seen anybody do what Gabe's doing, which is say, okay, I had this idea, it got turned into a comic book. Now let's put all this other stuff into place and start being a business.
Yeah.
I'll pay the lawyer, I'll do the legwork, a lot of people don't. A lot of people's like, you know what, this is publishing and I'm not a publisher. I just wanted to draw pictures, and they wander off.
It is definitely.
This may do the same thing, but
I
now
had that moment where it was like, nobody else is going to sell this. Okay,
right.
Like I've got to go out there if I want it to succeed.
Yeah,
I'm going to make this happen for us, and so that's why I'll run all over town with boxes full of T-shirts and rolling papers, and try and pitch.
And go all the way out to Denver, Colorado.
Well, yeah. And I go into smoke shops and say, okay, you need to carry my comic book.
Yeah.
And trying to convince these folks to just throw my comic book on their countertop. They don't sell comic books.
Yeah.
But the folks that we're getting these comics in front of, maybe they don't go into a comic book shop all the time. So it's nice to just be able to give them that kind of... And see that confidence that I had in our product kind of paying off.
Yeah.
We've sold in Memphis alone over 100 copies off of smoke shop countertops.
Yeah.
And we're looking to expand. My next test market is Denver, Colorado, where I'll be heading next month, about a month away from now. I have a comic book signing planned at Mile High Comics Mega Store, which is like a Costco only for comics and toys and collectibles. It is the biggest comic book shop in the United States.
Where is that?
Denver, Colorado.
Oh,
wow. Okay. Yeah.
And so
the Mile High was the dead giveaway. In case
sorry.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay.
And that's scheduled for Saturday the 19th, and I'll be there a couple days on either side of it, and I'm going to be doing the same thing I do here.
Yeah.
I'm literally going to be running all over Denver, going into every dispensary I can find, going to every comic book shop in the city, and saying, you need to carry my comic book.
So being a bartender
with it,
being a bartender has groomed you for sales, hasn't it? Being a bartender has
I've been told I could sell cars before. It never really interested me. I recently had to explain to somebody that my entire life as an adult has been about getting people, drunk and stoned and stuff. And altering people's mental states. And I was like, that's kind of weird. I basically just get people effed up. That's my whole job.
You're Tony Robbins.
20-something
You're Tony Robbins with a gallon of whiskey.
Basically. And a bushel of weed.
And it works to your advantage.
But I keep using the word momentum, but there's good momentum happening, right? I mean,
so far, everybody, I haven't got much in the way of negative feedback.
Yeah, if there've been any disappointments along the road so far, we'd already be talking about, well, do we need to be doing this?
But everybody is enjoying it.
There haven't been any bad disappointments other than I wish we could work faster.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, everybody's just waiting. That's the question now. Is not, hey, do you guys have more of that issue number 1? Everybody's asking about issue number 2 now.
Great.
And so it's like when I go in there, they're like, okay, how about that issue number 2? Or when's the next thing coming out? And that's part of where the merchandise helps out. Yeah. Because where it might take us 5 months to make a really awesome comic book, will take just a couple of weeks to get a couple hundred hoodies here in the Memphis area.
Yeah.
So we've got merchandise kind of coming out in between these comic books and to keep people kind of interested. Having the rolling papers is really fun because that inside flap of a rolling paper is generally useless until you add it to a comic book, and all of a sudden we stick a panel on the inside
Bazooka
flap.
Joe,
Bazooka
and
Joe.
bubble gum,
Right.
and
We're Bazooka Joeing our rolling papers.
That's
We're
brilliant.
making
That's
like
really
a little
brilliant.
comic.
It's great.
And we're working on, because it's a pretty small space. And we have a limited amount of room there, but we're trying to make it where each time you pick up a pack of these papers, every time we put in a new order for these papers in different sizes and stuff like that, it's going to be a different comic on that inside flap.
Yeah, that's thinking.
Right.
Keep people kind of coming back and interested.
And if people's
in
short-term
everything about
memories
it.
are interfered with, they could read it several times and still be entertained.
So we were talking a little bit earlier about maybe some more of the nerdy technical side of actually trying to get this to
You didn't hear that, did you?
No. So maybe some of the nerdy side of getting your product to print to fruition. There's a good word. Like you've transcended the realm of dabblers, and you got a story arc, and you got someone who can draw and write, and now
even before that,
yeah.
I literally in the last year have learned how to write a comic book. And
how did you do that?
Of like the script and stuff like that. Just
Maybe like within the genre, just learning the form.
There's nuts and bolts to writing, just like there is to music or anything else.
It's actually very similar to a movie script in a way that you're sitting there, and each panel, if you think of it, is almost like a shot. And each page or 2 pages is a scene. And so I'm sitting there and I can write out like panel to panel of what's going on, and then I go, okay, I know this guy's going to say something to this guy in this thing, but I know what's going on in the next panel, so I'm going to keep writing that. And so like just learning kind of the format of how to build this story, and doing dialogue is something like, even when it was a movie idea, dialogue's super important.
Sure.
So it's like, that was one of the things that scared me off actually writing a script, is because I could never really think of the right words, or he's going to say something, but like this, and just having the confidence to just say, you know what, I'm writing this story, whether you like it or not, brain.
Yeah.
And saying, I'm going to think of the good words. I'm going to think of the good words.
You have to be really, you have to be really efficient when you're writing a comic, because you don't have just pages and pages and pages. You have to imply a lot of things with two.
Which is one of the fun things that Greg has actually imparted on me, is just the fact that, hey, bud, sometimes all your words you want to say don't fit on the page.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Is that you've got 2 people having a long conversation, and you've given me a panel. You've got 2 guys saying 3 things each in a panel. This is going to take a little rewriting. Do you want to do it, or do you want me to?
And there was actually a splash page where they're all hanging out, and they're kind of like, almost, how like when you're sitting around watching TV with your friends smoking a bunch of weed, and you're like making fun of what's going on
that
TV.
doesn't happen.
Like, hey man, like she said this, oh this is funny, and like kind of they're interacting with the TV. They're talking to each other, but it's kind of going with the story of what's going on and stuff. And I had this really cool idea it was like, yeah man, and the word bubbles will kind of like interact. And he's like, if I do it like this, one, we have 2 panels, maybe 3 panels worth of words that aren't going to fit on your page. And all of the word bubbles are right on the crease of the comic. And so that was when I had to experience, in the very first issue, having to totally rewrite 3 pages of the comic to make it work.
Yeah.
I liked his idea, and I didn't tell him all that stuff until after I'd blocked it out. I use Illustrator to do all the layouts. And, put in all the lettering, put in all the boxes, framed it the way you wanted it framed, and went, I can't make this work.
Yeah.
I've pulled things apart, which I don't want to change the pace. He does actually. Gabe's got a good sense of pace.
Yeah.
That hasn't been our problem so far. There's a lot of people who will write a 22-page comic book, and you look at it and you go, what about these 7 pages where not a whole lot happens, and then you got a fight scene for 3 pages, and then not a whole lot happens for the last, We haven't run across that. We've been doing good, but this 2-page spread that he saw in his head, rather than block it as a scene, he was seeing a 2-page comic book. And I was like, physically doesn't work.
Wow.
Got to break that down. Got to pull it apart.
It's like writing a pop song, It's like 3.5 minutes, man. You get 4 minutes, man. It's like, it's,
Fight scene, chorus.
Yeah.
What's the,
Well, and that's part of the fun too, is when it comes to fight scenes, I can just block off 2 or 3 pages and just write fight scene. And I just turn that over to Greg.
Speaking of which, the action is drawn. The action's great.
Oh,
good job.
And Chris in his article talked about you had to do a little weapons research.
Yeah.
To get that down.
He described, he said, okay, he throws these knives, and I'm already throwing knives. And I drew the little knives that popped into my head.
Yeah.
And he said, that's not the knives it's supposed to throw. I'm like, all right. So the next time Gabe came over, I get a knife. He's like, I found this in the shop. I put a new handle on it. This is a kunai. This is what you got to draw. I was like, this will make things a lot easier. And I promptly dropped it and nearly took my toe off. It's not even sharp, but it's pointy.
Yeah.
You can do yourself damage. You're horsing around going, nah, I'm a ninja. Oh, that's going to ruin that shoe.
I'm a toeless ninja.
Ninja.
Yeah, I'm the ninja with no left foot.
So have you ever done anything like the exercise where you write an essay, let's say it's a page or 2 pages, and then you have to write 1 page, and then you have to write the same idea with a paragraph, and then get it down to where it's basically a sentence or 2?
No.
We've done that with some of the sales. No, we've
right,
done
we'll
that
edit
with
that
the
one.
sales material.
True. Now
I took 3 pages of his sales material packet and had to wedge it down into. We were doing a pitch for another publisher. And it's like, no, we can't. This has got to be a paragraph, man.
Yeah.
So we have disassembled some things.
As far as it being an exercise, like I'm some sort of trained writer. In that sense, absolutely not.
Yeah.
But we have found ourselves sitting there like I can pretty much bring it down to the tagline of it's a story about a young ninja who finds a mystical strain of ninja weed that gives him his superhuman ninja abilities, things that you would associate, powers that you would associate with a ninja, like running on walls, defying gravity with amazing flips, or disappearing in a puff of smoke. His smoke just happens to smell like weed.
Or near ESP.
Yeah, well, he can sense things, man.
Yeah.
He gets in this focused zone, and he can control elements of nature that normal people cannot.
Yeah.
And whether that's fire or smoke or superhuman speed, he can tap into all of this stuff just by getting stoned.
Wow. So in working with with Bad Dog, they. Can you describe what is it they provide? I know you've discussed your boots on the ground, reaching out to vendors for support, for sponsorship.
As far as distribution and
so Bad Dog is actually physically printing.
Well, they're not doing the printing.
Okay.
Now they have set up they contact an actual print company and they do all of that side of it. Although what we send them is pretty much edited, ready to go. All they have to do is take our file and send it to somebody else.
On-demand digital printing.
Yeah, right.
We have the benefit of them being associated with 901 Comics, so anytime we do a launch or a premiere, it's going to come out of there. We usually
and Shannon gets into the car and drives all over the all over the southeast.
Yeah, well, he's been up to the Midwest too, and he's been all over Illinois, Indiana.
So he wants to be
Kentucky.
a publisher, so he's going out and doing the legwork until
Knocking
we can
on
get it.
doors.
Also,
When we get this thing to the point where it can go into the big distributor catalog, that's the next big
that's the threshold.
Next big step up.
And he definitely has the intention of doing that. Right now, what we want to do is build up a handful of issues to be able to say, okay, here we go. We'll give you these 3 or 4 issues monthly.
Yeah.
And make that accessible to all of the 4,000 plus English speaking retailers or English language comic book retailers in the United States, Canada, and Europe.
Right.
Those are all handled by Diamond Distribution, which is actually out of Memphis, Tennessee, which is really convenient.
Yeah.
Wow.
Every comic book in North America that has the English language in it comes out of Diamond Distribution out of Memphis, Tennessee. Now,
I did not expect that to be
being
said.
here, we've got that advantage where we can walk in the door and talk to somebody if need be, and Shannon has contacted people about it. We want to make sure, though, we've got enough content to where they can say, okay, we'll put you in
we're
our
all
catalog.
doing this in our spare time, and we'll get another issue out when we can.
Yeah.
You gotta be able to say, okay, we're about to go monthly. Are you ready?
Wow.
And one of the fun things that we're looking to do with Stone Ninja specifically, and not necessarily the other Bad Dog comics, is there's 4,000 plus comic book shops, but there's over 24,000 dispensaries, smoke shops in the United States alone. That we're literally, our potential retailers is like 600% more if we want to try and bring these folks in. And just getting it in front of it, if we get 20% of those 24,000, that's like doubling our retailers, man.
Wow.
It's the potential to get this in a whole different new market for comics is incredible.
That's
and
exciting.
I would hope that ideally, whether we spin off our own stories and from Stone Ninja, maybe we'll see kind of an influx of like comics in places that are not comic book shops.
Right.
One of the fellow Bad Dog Comics publications is called Cryptic, and it's about cryptozoids. You guys familiar with them?
No.
Bigfoot.
You got to do a cryptozoology podcast with
Exactly.
Bigfoots and swamp monsters and stuff.
Bigfoot, monsters.
Right.
There's a Memphis one that she has planned, but she's put out a comic book, and like us, okay, we want to get it in as many comic book shops as we can,
Right.
But I also want to get this in front of people that might not necessarily go in front of into a comic book shop to purchase this.
Right.
She's reached out to the Cryptozoology Museum, like the National Museum, about them carrying her comic book, and I'm like, that's exactly what you need to do.
Great.
Get it in front of your target audience, even if that target audience isn't in the comic book shop.
Especially
So-
if your target audience
Exactly.
isn't in the comic book.
It reminds me a little bit of like when Starbucks was first starting to push music. I thought that was kind of weird, but now it's so common. Now it's like it's normal.
Yeah.
They have a playlist. They've got some artists. I don't know
I'm
if
going to
they're
do a
still-
comic called Old Ninja, and it's going to be a retirement home. It's going to be in all retirement homes everywhere.
That would be great.
I'm going to do like Dr. Ninja. It's going to be in doctors' waiting rooms, right next to the Highlights magazine.
Yes.
Dentist Ninja.
Dentist Ninja. Oh god.
Right next to the yachting magazines in the
Oh,
waiting
he can
rooms.
throw the kunai and take their teeth out like.
That's right. Just knock a tooth out.
Yeah, just like
Yeah.
open wide.
Pretty soon, all bad guys will be toothless. Very important.
Oh gosh. So hey.
Podcasting Ninja. You need to think about that.
Oh wow. Wow.
Musician
We'll
ninja.
quote you some prices on some 5-pagers.
So currently available where? Where do we get Stone Ninja?
Well, first of all, we have stoneninjacomics.com.
Yes.
That's going to be where you can contact me directly for any of the stuff, and I'll ship it to anywhere.
Get a
online
big pack.
order.
You get a shirt and a sticker and papers.
Great.
Yeah, you need the what are we calling it?
The bundle.
The bundle.
The
Get the bundle.
Actually, the one that
bundle?
we have now is the Stone Ninja starter kit, and that's going to have a signed and remarked copy of Stone Ninja number 1. That's where we scribble on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Lovely.
we totally
devalue the
destroy
hell out of it by
your
by
comic
writing
book
and drawing on
by
it.
scribbling on the cover.
That's
and then you get a pack of the Stone Ninja brand rolling papers, 100% pure hemp. You get a sticker pack that has a handful of cool stickers.
A kunai.
Well, that was with the original bundle. We did actually have a kunai.
There was
I
a
went and I
wooden
got
kunai.
the
Wow.
cosplay kunai.
You can't get
And
those things.
What I did.
You try to locate those things if you don't want to order 10,000 at one time.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
What I did is I took the crappy red ribbon that they had wrapped around the handle and I removed that. And then I sat there and took hemp rope and actually twisted it by hand for I think 30 of these things.
Oh, man.
Just like sitting there wrapping
So
them
if
up.
you've got
to
one of the
where they're
original bundles,
authentic
save
Stone
that
Ninja
kunai, hang it on the wall because we're having trouble getting more.
And we do know a fabricator.
Hey, 3D print those bad boys.
Well, and then
Oh,
in the
gosh.
bundle, you also get one of the Stone Ninja logo T-shirts, which are there's the black with the green Stone Ninja, there's a gray with a green Stone Ninja, and then a green with a white Stone Ninja on it, and that's available in this starter kit. But if you get online and you just hit the contact us and request any of those items individually, we can get you. If you're here in Memphis, Tennessee, you can get it at 901 Comics. You can get it at the Cellar Comics in Bartlett.
Yeah.
You can get it at the Wild Hair Smoke Shop on Madison.
By the way, big thanks to
Logan.
Logan for hooking us up with you guys.
Yeah,
Logan
he's
Walker,
a good guy,
outstanding
man.
guy.
And also, all 3 whatever locations will have the comic book, the T-shirts, the rolling papers, and they actually do carry the.
I think whatever has actually sold more T-shirts than the comic shops have now.
Oh, wow.
Oh yes, they've sold about 100 T-shirts for us.
Yeah.
They are also going to be in the next 2 weeks getting the Stone Ninja hoodies.
Ooh.
And they'll be the exclusive retailer on those for the time being until we expand.
Nice.
But we've got zip-ups and pullovers in gray and black, and they're really cool designs, and those will be available soon. And let's see, other retailers. There's Tobacco Zone on Germantown Parkway. There's Modern Hemp in Collierville off of New Byhalia Road. That's a CBD store where they have all of the cool CBD stuff now, and they are featuring our products as well. So, and then there's a
you
couple
would
of
like
things
to
out
feature
of town.
Stone Ninja and your retail outlet,
Yeah.
just contact us.
Yeah, we're very open to selling more products.
It helps, doesn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
it's a huge.
It's business.
Definitely.
It's all about
yeah,
business.
That's good business.
Yeah, currently, I learned how to write a comic book last year, so I'm going to try and learn that business this year.
That's great.
There we go.
I was trying to give him a copy of Small Business for Dummies, and he said he's not a dummy, so he didn't want to read it.
The truth is, I already have that book.
Okay.
I already
mind.
have Small Business. I think I've got an idiot's version
Yeah.
and a dummy's version, just in case I'm one and not the
I've
other.
had my copy so long that the cover is actually sort of UV burnt from being on the bookshelf.
Well, Greg, Gabriel, thank you so much for hanging out today. This has been a great hang, and I'm very excited for you guys. And
Thanks for having us.
Oh
Thank you for
man,
talking to
this
us.
is very
Our
cool.
pleasure to come by and run our mouths.
This is great. It's great. Keep your eyeballs peeled for Stone Ninja. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Well, I now want to plant an herb garden. Big thanks to Gabe and Greg. And
And what, Carl?
I was going to say, I want to thank Greg again for the caricatures he did of us.
Oh yeah, we got caricatures.
Still got yours?
And yeah, it's hanging right. It was hanging. Is it falling down? Well, sorry, Greg. It was hanging up in my office, but
Greg was able to capture the uncanny likeness of both of us. Your eyebrow and my.
I look like a villain.
And my goatee. You are a villain. Look out for episode number 2, which is coming out, or maybe already out by the time this releases. But the guys at Stone Ninja are doing something fun. It's just a fun read. I can't wait for the movie.
See you guys next time.
See you guys.